Okay.
Greetings, everyone. Today, we're joined by Comrade Francis Garikayi. We are talking about caregivers in the United Kingdom. He's based in the United Kingdom. He's a PhD candidate. He has done what we always ask the communists to do, that communists get us to the front. He is working with the caregivers that are having challenges. You remember we recorded videos about those who want to go to the UK on how you access employment by checking in the government website, the UK government website. We know that there are a lot of scammers out there and the people are facing challenges. So Comrade Garikayi is going to take us through in terms of the work that he's doing. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you very much for having me.
Maybe let's start by the work that you do in terms of the caregivers. What is happening?
Okay, so I think what we did is, after reading a couple of disturbing articles on the internet, there was an article published by the Telegraph here in the UK that was talking about some of the challenges that are being faced by Zimbabweans who are coming to work in the care sector here in the UK. So to give a little bit of background context, I think sometime early this year, it must be in February, the UK government included caregivers and carers on the list of skilled workers. In other words, that means that employers who are in the sector can now sponsor people to come and work in the UK. So naturally, and because of our economic situation in Zimbabwe, that attracted a lot of people to start applying for this visa. And that was also really, the demand was also increased because in South Africa, where you are, the Zimbabwe permit, I think there was an announcement that it would be abolished at the end of this year, and I think it was later extended to June next year. So most people who were working in South Africa, Zimbabweans, wanted to find something else to do, and this was an attractive option for them because, you know, they could come and work in the UK in the care sector. And then obviously the many people in Zimbabwe who are still unemployed thought that this was an opportunity. I mean, for you to get a care sponsorship, all you need to do is to get an offer from someone who is in the sector or an employer. And there's a lot of Zimbabweans here in the UK who have been here for quite some time, and probably now they have their own businesses and they are now working in the sector providing care services. So these people started to sponsor visas for people to come and work in the UK. But that has come with other problems now. You see, the way the system works is it's a private system, private care system, somehow almost private public in nature. So what you have is that you can establish your company and then approach a local council here in the UK and tell them that you've got some carers and you'll be able to provide care services. So in your location, you'll be able to provide care services. And so you sign a contract, or you can be subcontracted by another care company if you promise them that you will be able to bring people to the UK to work in the sector. So what has happened is that companies with and these companies now, they go to the Home Office here in the UK. They can then apply to become official sponsors. They get a sponsorship license. In other words, they get approval to sponsor foreigners to come and work in the sector here in the UK. So what has happened is that because there's such a high demand, people want to come and work in the sector here in the UK. Some unscrupulous companies have decided to start selling this certificate of sponsorship. So I think the arrangement is that for you to at the Home Office, they require you to pay as a company maybe £1,500 to sponsor an employee. But these companies are now charging 3,000, 7,000, I've yet about 5,000, being charged these people to come and work sponsorship. On top of that, you need to pay your visa fee, you need to pay your air ticket, as well as find your own accommodation. And more recently, people are now being asked to also purchase their own cars to use, to go around what they call the dome care sector. So these are some of the challenges that people are facing. And so after reading these stories of exploitation, some people now, when they come, because for these companies, sponsoring visas became another spin-off business. So instead of actually providing caring services, you start selling sponsorship. Because you can go to Zimbabwe and say, if you want to come to the UK, give me £7,000. They sponsor you to come to the UK. And now, so these companies are sort of over-recruiting, and they're finding themselves in a situation where they've got more employees than they require for their business. And some people are finding now do not have enough hours, sufficient hours to take care of themselves. We are hearing stories of people getting £500 a month. You can hardly survive on that. And so there are, harrowing stories of exploitation. The other lady, she was just telling us that they were promised that they would get cars to use for business, but that didn't happen. And so people are having to, to walk, and it's winter time here in the UK, very cold. And for you to have to walk, in this weather is really not easy. So I think there are disturbing stories of exploitation. And so what we decided to do was to create a WhatsApp group for those carers who are here in the UK.
Maybe before we get there, let's deal with someone who's in Joburg, in Harare, in Bulawayo, who wants to apply for a job as a caregiver. Would you mind taking us through with the process?
Okay. So if you are, say, in Joburg, or you say in Zimbabwe, or in Africa, and you want to apply for a care visa, I think the process, if you were to do it the straightforward way, is you would go online and try to look for these companies, and then apply for a role. But I think you need to prepare a CV, right? To prepare a CV, and you need to have some experience working in the care sector. And some people are bridging this gap by working, for example, in a care home in South Africa, in a care home in Zimbabwe, because you can just come with no experience. There are no formal qualifications in the way, like 5 O-levels or that are required. All you need to do is to have some experience working in a care home setting. Or I think, as I always say on the groups, is if you are passionate about helping people, this is all about how you present your CV. Because remember, if you present your CV in that way and you say, I'm passionate about helping, I think this is a valuable job that these people are doing. Helping the disabled, helping the old is really an important job. And some people are naturally passionate about it and can do a good job there. And this is something that must come up on your CV. So you write your CV and you apply. I would recommend applying on platforms like Indeed, NHS Jobs, or simply putting on Google. You find most care homes, they advertise for roles. And then if you are lucky, they will, if you write your CV properly, they will invite you for an interview. And then when you go for an interview, they give you a job offer. Once they've given you a job offer, they will say, okay, for you to get this visa, you need to have certain minimum requirements in terms of your English language requirements. And usually people are writing what is called the IELTS test, which is the English test that tests your reading ability. I think you need a level 5. I can't quite remember the band that you need. And once you get this IELTS certification, it means now that the sponsor can give you a sponsorship, a certificate of sponsorship. It's called a certificate of sponsorship, but it's not an actual physical certificate. It's just a number that they give you that you use when you apply online. So there will be a license number for your sponsor as well as a certificate of sponsorship, but just basically a number that the employer who is here in the UK generates for you to use to apply for your visa online. So I would say yes. I've seen, even from my interactions with people on the online platform, is that people are quick to write the English test, quick to do the TB test, quick to do all of these background stuff before they have a job offer. I think at a time when cash is really tight, you want to really think carefully whether you want to do those things first, or you want to sort of, prepare your CV, and when your CV is ready and you've been offered some employment, then you can do that. Maybe the English test, you can do it earlier, but other things like TB test, I think you can wait and do them after you've had job offers. So that's the process. There's no agency, I must highlight. There are probably some employment agencies, I don't know how legit they are, but there's no government agency that is sort of taking these applications. These are all private companies that are hiring people. Yeah.
Okay. Then you were talking to us about the WhatsApp group that you set up after you came through these challenges. What is it that you are doing now?
Okay, so we have got 2 WhatsApp groups. There's one for Zim carers who are already here in the UK. And I think here we are trying to set up a structure. There are so many challenges in the care sector. So there is the UK government, by opening up this avenue, was actually responding to its own challenges, because it's well acknowledged there are so many research papers that have been published. And even if you just search or Google search UK care crisis, it's well acknowledged that the care crisis here in the UK, the care sector here in the UK is in crisis. So firstly, there's issues around under low pay. Carers are the least paid, among the least paid employees here in the UK. And yet they do a very difficult job. So there's not adequate funding. For example, if you are working in what they call domiciliary care or dom care, the time that you spend moving from one client to another, you do not actually get paid for it. So you have a situation where a carer wakes up at 6 a.m. in the morning and comes back home at, say, midnight, but they only get paid so half the time. So they work for 14 hours and only get paid for 7 hours. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to engage in advocacy to try and speak with trade unions and even I think if we are successful, speak with, write a letter to the Home Office or to the Minister of Care to highlight this plight. It's not only also Zimbabwean carers. I think it's an issue about migrant carers in general here in the UK who are having to plug in these gaps. In a way, strictly speaking, migrants are actually subsidizing the UK sector because they have to pay all of these monies and then come and get low pay. So it's just really to highlight this. I think Unison, one of the most popular trade unions here, and GMB have highlighted these issues around low pay. And I think we would like to have a voice and speak with those trade unions to make sure that we can advocate for pay. One other thing we're also doing on the WhatsApp group here in the UK that we've started is sharing information. You know, we find that most people, when they come here, they want to be atomized. You don't want Mr. Mabena to know, Comrade Mabena to know that I'm working in the UK, so we don't share information, you see. So it's about sharing information. I think you may ask a question, I've seen it on the group. Someone asks, oh, how do I get there? And someone also already has information within the group. So it's really to foster cohesion amongst carers, that they know that they were working as a team. We are not alienating ourselves from everyone else in the UK. We want to be part of this society, but we know that our problems are unique as Zimbabweans. We've come from a very difficult economic position. And so we want to sort of have a solidarity group where people talk about these things. But most importantly, we are encouraging all the carers who came to the UK to join trade unions, because that's the only way they can secure their conditions. Trade unions are empowering. I think people of my generation, maybe they never had the opportunity to join a trade union, and we are finding that to telling people about trade unions is difficult. So we are encouraging people to join trade unions, and also training, providing people with information about the labor laws and all these things. That's what we're doing on the UK front. On the Zimbabwean front, we also have a group where we increasingly provide people with information, encouraging them not to just pay for anything. In fact, we are discouraging people from paying for this certificate of sponsorship. We don't think that people must be paying for that. Approach a legitimate company; they must be able to sponsor you. And then also providing them with information. Some people are asking, how do I do this? And also highlighting, putting red flags on some things. You know, if someone says they're employing for, to give you £5,000 a month, that's likely to be a scam. So that's what we're trying to do. Some volunteers on the group will just tell you, no, look, be careful about this. And I think we can only increase the scope of the things that we are doing going forward. I think we would like to be able to provide people with more information so that when they leave Zimbabwe, they know all the things. It's not necessarily that we come to the UK, you're coming to paradise. Sometimes when you emigrate, you're not really thinking carefully. All you're thinking about is leaving. So we try to provide people with as much information as is possible. And I think we are still growing, and we are hoping that some volunteers will join to help with the coordination, to help with their skills and expertise.
Yeah, so someone that I was talking to in the UK was saying that some people will recruit someone, say in Zim, they will sponsor, but when you get there, they start deducting from your salary, end up earning 50% of your salary. Is this problem widespread, or is an isolated incident?
I think I would say it's a widespread problem. I can't say with authority because I didn't do some research, but I've heard reports. I've also received people come to my inbox and tell me all these things. So I think it's a common problem. It was highlighted in the Telegraph article. The Herald also had an article highlighting some of these issues. I think the laws in this country are very clear in terms of how much an employer can deduct from your salary. So it cannot be that an employer deducts 50% of, of your salary and you end up with 50%. It should be a minimal thing that you can afford. So be sure to check your contract. Sometimes comrades are not reading contracts when they are all eager to leave. Read your contract. Make sure you understand. It's not all about just what good is it to just leave the country and come and get £500 here in the UK. I don't think that's sustainable. So read your contract. It is not allowed in terms of UK labor law for someone to deduct as much as 50% of your salary. So make sure that you can, of course, if there are some costs that, say, for instance, if your employer, I think, can legitimately deduct, say, the cost that they pay to the Home Office, which I have told you already is maximum £1,500. They can say, okay, because I've paid for you for this visa fee, you have to stay with me for 2 years. Should you leave before the end of the 2 years, then you need to repay. That is understandable. But these £7,000, £5,000 that they are charging, honestly, it's really a burden. And, I don't think people should be paying such high amounts. And then the deductions must be reasonable. If you are unsure, I recommend comrades, just Google anything, like on the UK government website. They provide all the information about how many hours you are supposed to work a week, how much your employer can deduct. But most importantly, join a trade union, join the group, and people will be able to help you.
Which trade union? You spoke about trade union, but for someone following this channel, which trade union to join, and how do you assist them to join?
Yes, I would recommend that people join Unison. Unison is a good trade union because they also have a link to some lawyers. I'm a member of Unison as well because I work part-time. GMB is also a very good union. But I think Unison is good because they give you legal assistance. Remember, when you join, there's going to be a 4-week period before you start accessing their services. So you should join now. While as you are watching this, pause the video and join Unison now because you need it. It's not too much, comrades, about £15 per month. It's a very good solidarity network. It allows us to integrate in the society. We are all working class. Forget about I'm Zimbabwean and whatever. We are all working class and suffering the same conditions. So it's very important that we join a trade union. So yes, I would recommend Unison because they also deal with issues around immigration. Most comrades are scared of even thinking or talking about this. Why? Because they are scared that their employers will cancel their visas, which is a misconception. Now, if you are unsure or you don't trust Comrade Garikayi or Comrade Francis for saying this, go and now if you're a member of Unison, you can easily call them they use a confidential service and tell them all your worries. They've got professional lawyers that will be able to help you. If your employer is not treating you right and you're afraid that they'll cancel your visa, you call Unison and you explain everything. They'll be able to help you. I'm hearing stories of sexual harassment. It's not pretty. Some of our female comrades who are coming here, they are being sexually harassed by their bosses. Please join a trade union like Unison. We can only do as much as is organizing, but it's very important that you join a trade union.
Well, before we let you go, I was just checking on Google. It says 4,000 doctors and nurses left Zimbabwe in 2021. How many Zimbabweans in the healthcare sector do you think are in the UK?
Wow, I wish I could give you a number, but I can tell you there are many. We have some people who came here initially and, maybe as carers, now they are nurses. I think, can't give you a number, but we have quite a significant number of nurses from Zimbabwe. It was also, I was listening on BBC the other day, even some people coming from Nigeria and being recruited by private companies, and also stories of exploitation. But for us to push back against this, I think, is to be organized, to be united, to join trade unions, and not really be, divided by petty things. So the bosses are also very clever, who are also Zimbabwean in most instances anyway. They divide and rule us. They tell you, oh, Comrade Mabena, I hear you are thinking about, joining a union. So do you want me to cancel your visa? Or I hear you're trying to change an employer to scare people. But how can that happen in a country with developed laws like the UK? That's obviously not possible. So, but I think once we get I think the numbers are increasing and we're looking for volunteers to help with other things, solidarity. We must, someone was saying to me, another carer committed suicide, which is really disturbing. So solidarity networks will help us to even think about how do we care for each other in a uniquely, Zimbabwean way, but also not alienating ourselves from the broader British society, because we want to be part of the whole society, but we should also acknowledge that we have our own unique problems.
So if people want to contact you, are you open for people to contact you? How do they reach out to you?
Yes. So I think the best way to reach out for me, I think, is we have the groups. They can contact you and then you can forward them to me. That's one way of doing it. As you are aware, I run a podcast, Zim Left Radio. There's all my Twitter details and all my emails there. If you go there, and I'm on Twitter at @Garikayi, so you can also find me there. And then I'll be able to, if you don't have the link, to give you the group link. I'll also forward you the link to the groups to your number, Comrade Mabena, so that if someone is interested in joining the group, I think you can even put in the comments section the links to those groups so that people can openly join the groups. I cannot claim that I'm an expert in immigration law or anything. I'm just trying to coordinate and organize people and help people, and also give people some information. I'm thankful to all the people who are helping me with this initiative, other people who have links with the trade unions. I think we are still starting up, but I think if we continue and if we get some volunteers, we'll be able to help people and show people that solidarity really helps us in a big way.
No, thanks so much, Comrade Garikayi. Maybe just 30 seconds about your podcast. I know there are other communists that follow this channel. They want to know what is it that you talk about. I know that you had an interesting discussion with Comrade Ian Bidos on imperialism. Just in 30 seconds, what's your podcast about?
Yeah, it's about political economy. It's also about history. I'm trying to resuscitate some of the old traditions. I speak to, former Zipras and Lakatas. I speak to women. It's a political economy podcast, and hopefully, to just a cutting edge analysis of the situation using a strong historical perspective. So yeah, that's all about the podcast. We try to publish every 2 weeks. I think the latest one was with Comrade Fabian Como, who was a former Zipra cutter. It was really illuminating, and I encourage everyone to follow the podcast. And we just really trying to teach each other and learn from each other.
Okay, thank you so much, Comrade Garikayi. He is based in the United Kingdom. You are in London, by the way.
I'm in Bristol. Thank you so much, Comrade Baben.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel and please circulate this video and encourage others to join if they are already in the United Kingdom. But if you are still planning to travel to the UK, we are free to write in the comment section. He is going to read your comments and then we will assist. Otherwise, have a great day. Goodbye, comrade. Thanks.
Thank you very much.